Okay, it is 11 o'clock. I think we will get going. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. And my name is Michael Hunter. I'm the director of the Georgia Transportation Institute. And it is my privilege to welcome and thank Supriya Kumakar, the Assistant Office Head for Research for the Office of Performance-Based Management and Research. Today, she is going to give us a webinar on developing effective GDOT research needs statements, which is critical right now. We are in the middle of the current RNS cycle. So Supriya is going to be chatting with us about that. A couple quick, administrative items. Please, if you have any questions, go ahead and put the questions in the chat box. You can do that as Supriya is talking, and then when she's done, we'll go through the questions. But given the number of people, I think the best way to manage this is going to be to handle our questions through the chat box. Please remember that the questions should be general towards research needs statements, working with GDOT, that type of thing. If you have a specific question about a project, like you have a project idea, you want to do this specific thing, that's a question really for offline that you can contact Supriya afterwards and say, I have this particular idea, who should I talk to, right? So if you're very specific, we do ask that this is probably not the right venue for that. That's something to reach out to Supriya afterwards. So, and also finally, we will post this webinar. So it will be posted after we are done. It takes a little bit for it to come through, but it should be up on the GTI site by the end of the day today. So with no further ado, Supriya, the show is yours. Thank you so much again for offering to do this webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Hunter, and good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us today. We will talk about developing effective GDOT research needs statements. Developing a high-quality, effective research needs statement is a win-win to both GDOT and GTI. A win for us since it facilitates our selection process of research projects, and a win for you as it increases your chance of partnering with us. What's a research needs statement? A research needs statement provides a brief summary of the proposed research. The preferred length of a research needs statement is up to 2 pages. However, a length of up to 3 pages is permissible as needed. A research needs statement is abbreviated as RNS in this presentation. Today we will go over research needs statements, significance, composition, optimization, submittal, approval, and questions, if any. RNS significance. An RNS is a basic means of initiating GDOT research. It's getting things started as turning an idea into a GDOT research project. An RNS is required for all core GDOT research projects. GDOT sponsors national, regional, and state-level research programs. What we mean by core program is the state-level research that we sponsor. And the RNS is the document that we require for our all core program research projects. Research ideas may be submitted by external partners like GTI or internally by GDOT staff. We require that a research idea is turned into an RNS for both external and internal partners before making a funding decision. An RNS is a basic means of communicating a research need. It's a communication piece for GDOT decision makers. GDOT decision makers are sponsoring offices, which are the end using offices, and funding review groups, which are the research technical advisory groups, or as we call them, the RTACs, and the executive management. The first two are initially involved in reviewing the research needs statements, and sometimes the executive management may also be consulted in making a decision. So a research needs statement should be written keeping in mind all these audiences. Clear statements of need, novelty, your approach, and benefits should be developed. The statement should be comprehensible by general transportation audience. The dialogue and collaborations with the subject matter experts follow, but we begin with the general audience first. So tailor your statements keeping these things in mind. RNS composition. The guidelines for developing a research needs statement are available to you all on the GTI website. However, we will just go over the elements of a research needs statement quickly. First comes title. Provide a short descriptive title. Sometimes you get tempted to provide a long title, but try to have something that just gets at the heart of the problem or the need to be looked at. Problem statement. Provide a concise description of the proposed research project, including the statement of the problem to be solved or the research need. Lean toward brevity when you write for us in general. Literature search. What we are doing here is avoiding the duplication of the past or current research. Submitters are required to do a literature search before submittal. At minimum, include searches from the review of Transportation Research Boards, also called TRBs, two databases, Transportation Research International Documentation, or the TRID database, and the Research in Progress, or RIP database. Research objective. A statement of the specific research objective defined in terms of the expected final product, which relates to the general problem statement above. Define the specific task as necessary to achieve the objective and methods of investigation. The more specific you are, it's better. We are not asking for too much details here. A need statement is not a full-blown proposal. The objective is to support the problem statement and showing this is where we need to go in order to solve the problem. Implementation prospects. Provide a thorough description for the prospects of transferring this research topic into implementation or practice. This is something that the project objectives are fulfilled and the research is transferred into practice. One way you can approach this is you can look at the levels of implementation. You could think of the levels of implementation that could be achieved depending on degree of accomplishing project objectives. Research significance. This is bang for the buck for the research. Provide an explicit statement of the final product of the research and how it is to be used by GDOT at the close of the project. Discuss the direct benefit to GDOT from the proposed project and its implementation. Discussion may be expanded for multiple objectives and deliverables. Include a benefit-cost ratio of implementing the project findings and/or deliverables. The benefit should be quantified in dollars and include a general explanation how it was derived. The cost would be the total project cost, not including implementation cost outside of the project. This is your guess about the value of the research. We understand that the benefits for some projects can be easily quantified than others. So here at GDOT, we not only look at the quantitative benefits, but also at the qualitative benefits when we consider the overall value delivered. Project duration. Indicate the proposed duration of the project in months. Cost estimate. Provide an estimate of the total cost of the project. This is your estimate based on your knowledge of how much it would cost for your team to deliver the project. If the project is approved, some details of the cost can be discussed with GDOT at the proposal development stage. Statement developers provide the name, phone number, email address, and contact information for the person or persons developing the statement. Normally, the statement developers are the investigators. However, there may be a chance that there is a change in staff. Someone may pick up the developer's ideas, and these two could be different. Investigators provide the name and contact information of the proposed principal investigator. There is one principal investigator and any number of co-principal investigators. Agency provide the name of the agency or institution proposing the research. Example would be if it is a university like Georgia Southern University, you would list as Georgia Southern University, or an internal statement developed within GDOT, it would be listed as Georgia DOT. This is the actual agency that conducts the research, or agencies that you may have partnerships with, or private consultants. Date of submittal. Provide a date that the need statement is submitted to GDOT. This is a date when you upload the RNS to the portal. The next two items, GDOT offices supporting and the technical implementation manager, do not have to be known at the time of submittal. My office screens the need statements after we receive them, and we identify the pertinent supporting office or offices, and the technical implementation manager is identified by the supporting office. So not knowing these two upfront is not held against you. GDOT office supporting. This is the end using office or offices of the research project. Provide as possible at time of submittal name of the GDOT office or offices supporting the proposed research. List an office only if they have demonstrated their support of this project. This contact office, if not known at the time of submittal, should be noted as TPA. Technical Implementation Manager is a person from the end using office or offices who is a technical shepherd for your project and provides technical oversight. Provide as possible at time of submittal name of GDOT staff member responsible for technical implementation management of the proposed research. This contact, if not known at time of submittal, should be noted as TPA. References. These are literature references. References should be included at the end of the document. Include a few references. We are mainly looking for salient references. Please do not misunderstand the references for any individuals or contact names that the way you would list them on a resume or a job application. It is not required. Confidentiality statement. It is very explicit here that this information will be reviewed by my office only as part of the reviewing process. A confidentiality statement is included on every RNS, assuring protection of your intellectual property. We will discuss more about this later in this webinar. Submitters who are not employees of the Georgia Department of Transportation should include the confidentiality statement at the end of their need statement, and the language is provided in the guidelines. RNS optimization. These are the best practices or the things that we found that work. Things to emphasize. First would be understanding of research need or problem to be solved. First, we need to be convinced of the problem statement, problem or the need. That's the first thing we look for. Clear project objectives. We need clear objectives. We look for projects with specific goals, objectives, and deliverables. Our model is a project delivery and implementation oriented model, and specific goals and objectives are to be delivered in a research project. Implementation prospects. This is your understanding of implementation if the objectives are fulfilled. Right according to your understanding, we are looking for a balance of low and high risk research in our program. There are some programs like the NCHRP IDEA program that may promote higher risk. We understand that some risks need to be taken. So we are interested in the high risk research along with the moderate and low risk research. Significance to GDOT. Provide explicit statement of final product and its use. Don't propose anything uncertain. If uncertain, wait. It's better to discuss the desired product with the potential end user. Research eventually gets funded by doing that preliminary work. Provide a realistic benefits cost ratio. There are some models of benefit cost ratio that can come up with a large benefit cost ratio. We are not expecting a large ratio like 1000 to 1. Just come up with a reasonable value. For RNS, a reasonable ballpark figure is needed. Things to avoid. There are some of the things that we find on our research needs statements. Some may seem humorous, but these are the common errors and pitfalls that need to be avoided. First is poor editing, proofreading, and formatting. This is your first impression, and it's important. We pay attention to the quality of the RNS, somewhat indicator of the quality of work we might expect. An RNS is a 1 to 2 page document and not long. So please proofread it for quality. If there is any doubt about quality, have a third party look at it. It would be your colleagues, someone from your department, your college, not hiring exactly a tech editor, but sometimes people even do that. Upworks and other services are also available as desired. Writing a book. Don't write a book. When you write for us, in general, use brevity over density, except where density is a must. We leave it at your discretion. Density is sometimes needed, but it is not expected for a research needs statement. Just like you, most of your audience are busy and appreciate and more likely to support something straight to the point with sufficient support. Cursory literature search versus full-blown literature review. We are looking for somewhere in between a flash Google search and a copious literature review. Demonstrating that you have bases covered is the key. Not overlooking salient literature, but not overloading us either. We are driving for a balance. We are trying to avoid the duplication, but trying to get a confidence that you understand the state of the practice and what novelty of your research is. Big budgets for first projects. Probably you want to aim low on your first project because we have a higher risk. The average project cost on our program is between $250K to $300K. For your first project, aim for the average or even less. These are good ballpark figures for your first time around, or even not, unless you have progressed to doing larger projects for us. Detailed cost estimates. Don't show detailed cost estimates on the RNS as you would on the proposal. It's not needed. Just mention the total cost of the project. Unrealistic schedules. Think float. Researchers are encouraged to think float. Avoid too short or too long schedules. Getting the right schedule, in my opinion, is a delicate thing as you are trying to balance the needs of the end user to the capabilities of the university who is assisting. It's not an easy thing and takes practice. Give your best estimate first, but you can be thinking upfront about these things. Making allowance for fieldwork, weather delays, data acquisition delays during project, and 3 months of review period for the draft final report, which is part of the total duration of the project. Schedule charts. Don't show detailed schedule charts on the RNS. It's not needed. Just mention the total duration of the project. Calendar dates or months for duration. Don't list calendar dates or calendar months for the duration. Just list total number of months. Promising the moon. Promising the moon equals loss of credibility. We like ambition and self-confidence. However, balance ideologies with realistic expectations. We don't avert from the risk. However, we want to be realistic about what we get from the research. Criticism of GDOT. Think win-win. We don't expect you to agree with everything GDOT does, considering the size of GDOT and its impact on Georgia lives. We realize there will be both positive and negative impacts from GDOT business. Even after we hire you, we don't expect you to agree with us about everything. There will be plenty of discussion about these type of things if we decide to do a research along these lines. We are looking for to improve and don't claim we are perfect and don't expect our partners to agree on everything with us. We just ask for discretion along these lines in RNS and proposals. RNS submittal. Let's talk about the mechanism of submitting the RNS. We have one general RNS solicitation per year for GTI. Generally, we try to have it mid-August through mid-September. This year, the actual dates are August 17 to September 20. I'm told that the RNSs can be submitted until 11:59 p.m., but please verify with Dr. Michael Hunter and Robert Karsler. Preliminary discussions with GDOT sponsors are encouraged, but not required. Every year, we used to schedule research poster session in the month of September at GDOT headquarters at One Georgia Center, where the researchers could meet with the GDOT personnel and discuss research needs. This year, due to COVID-19, we are going to have a virtual poster session in the month of October, and the researchers would not get a chance to meet GDOT personnel at the poster session before the RNS call closes. However, we encourage the researchers to communicate with the end-using offices. If you are new to approaching GDOT, then talk to your experienced colleagues or approach me. My office has been connecting the researchers to GDOT offices when requested these days. So if you haven't yet, feel free to contact us as desired. In future years, you can start conversation with GDOT offices earlier as desired so that the last minute rush can be avoided. Upload to GTI portal or a website. I will leave the details of uploading the RNS to GTI portal to Dr. Hunter and Robert. You can ask them during Q&A of this session, and the details are already gone out. Confidentiality. We talked about this earlier, but one more time, I want to tell you that your ideas are not shared, but considered by least number of GDOT staff required to make funding decisions. We are sensitive to privacy of your intellectual property, and it is covered in our contractual language. Your secrets are safe with us, and only limited, relevant GDOT staff have access to your intellectual property as required to make funding decisions. RNS approval, administrative pre-screening by GDOT research. This is the first thing that my office will do after we receive all research needs statements from GTI. The statements will be screened for formatting requirements like number of pages and required elements of the RNS. For example, the maximum allowable number of pages is 3. If we receive a statement that has more than 3 pages, it will be directly eliminated. An additional note would be we are looking at a font size of 10 and above. Another thing is all elements of the RNS are required. For example, if the required literature review is not included, then the statement will be eliminated. The only 2 elements that are not required to be listed at the time of submittal are the GDOT supporting office and the technical implementation manager. As advised before, write TBA if you don't know them at the time of submittal. We will then send the list of all screen statements to the pertinent end-using office heads for their review and support. Also, the needs, as the need dictates, with respect to the volume of the statements, we may ask the office heads to prioritize the statements that they support. Sponsoring office heads. This is the most fundamental support by the end-using office. As I said earlier, after you submit the RNSs through the portal, they are sent to us. We decide the pertinent offices for the RNS to review. The office head supported RNSs are submitted to the next funding review groups, which are the Research Technical Advisory Groups or RTAGs. Research Technical Advisory Groups. We have 4 Research Technical Advisory Groups: Asset Management, Mobility, Policy Workforce, and Safety. There are between 12 to 15 members per RTAG. It's a broad cross-section of GDOT staff whose duties are concentrated at least in part to the scope of the RTAG. For an example, for the safety RTAG, mainly people from traffic operations as well as people looking at safety from other angles would be the audience. GDOT research staff decides only first which RTAG reviews the RNS, but depending on the scope and objectives of the RNS, the RTAGs may transfer between themselves. It takes only one RTAG's approval for a research needs statement to move to the next tier of approval, which is our Research Advisory Committee. The RTAGs may also prioritize the RNSs if funding becomes an issue. Research Advisory Committee is made of our executive management. Our Chief Engineer, Meg Perkal, is the chair, and all division directors are the members of the committee. We also have FHWA in an advisory role. They normally review projects recommended by RTAGs for funding in first part of the calendar year and decide upon funding by a majority vote. We added this tier of approval several years ago to make sure the executive management was aware of the research upfront and there weren't any surprises late in the game. They sign off on the projects upfront. Even before we write a proposal, we have a sign off by the executive management on the topic that we are willing to pursue and fund. Announcements. Formal announcements of project approvals are made through Dr. Hunter after the RAP approval decision is available. Follow-up inquiries are acceptable. We can provide some informal debriefing. So thank you for listening to this presentation. Please advise if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Priya. Ooh, sorry, it's my bad. Better, I'm getting feedback. All right, is that better? Okay, can you hear me, Spriya?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. So we've had a couple questions. One is a university required, and this particular one is from Kennesaw State, to have a partner at GDOT or Georgia Tech? I believe the answer to that question is no, right? You don't need to have a partner.
No, you don't have to.
Okay. The other question was, will it be posted? And yes, we will post it on the GTI website. Then I have a couple other quick questions. So historically, the timeline has been, so we do the submission in September, that the research office review, office heads, RTAG, and RAC would occur, and the announcement would be made February-ish. Under the current circumstances, with a lot of things occurring online, do you think that schedule is still going to be made, or do you expect it maybe to be pushed back, or do you have a sense of what people can expect for the timeline on announcement?
Yeah, I mean, as far as possible, we will try to maintain the same timeline as April. And if you remember, Dr. Hunter, this year, the announcements were made in the month of March, right? And not in February.
Oh,
so,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it could be either late February or early March is what the timeline you would expect for the final announcements of project approvals.
Okay. And one other question. So with COVID, I'm sort of curious, does that need to be addressed at all? So if, when say in your RNS, if you're doing the timeline, you're saying your duration of the project, do we need to consider that at this point in time? Is there anything you want to know about? Does a continuation of everything being online affect the project, or is that something that would be addressed afterwards?
To be honest with you, we haven't thought about it yet, because the uncertainties that we have with COVID, we really don't know how long it would take. So as you know, that this year, for whatever projects that were accepted on the contract, we did have a language that said that how the COVID would impact the project schedule. So maybe we will decide it later at the time of proposal development. But what do you think? I would like to have your input as well.
I guess then when somebody is submitting an RNS, they need to be thinking about, they don't have to write it in the RNS, but they should be prepared, if their RNS is accepted, to address in the proposal if the potential COVID and how things are changing, how that might influence their timeline in any way. So that has to be something that the researcher is prepared to address if their proposal, if their RNS is accepted. Maybe that's the best way to say that?
Yeah, we can say that.
Okay, that sounds good. Are there any additional questions? Okay, I don't think we have any additional questions, so we'll kind of wrap it up here. I thank everybody for attending, and Supriya, thank you so much for doing this presentation. Again, if anybody has any other follow-up questions, please feel free to send Supriya a question, or you can send it to myself if it's something that would have to do with GTI. We will post this presentation on the GTI website, and we'll also send out an email to the GTI list. If you're not on that list, please get on the list. And I think that is what we have for now.
Okay.
So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Hunter. Thank you, Robert. And thank you all who are attending this webinar today. We appreciate GTI business with us, and thank you. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll talk to y'all later.